Good morning. This is Robert Goodman here on Positive Strokes, Staying Clean. I'm so happy that you're a part of my recovery. I'm so happy that you're here this morning. And today we're going to talk about trauma and stress. In my past, what led me to be in active addiction was the stress that happened when I was young. That the trauma came from the stress to my body, my mind, and my physical body. The stress, the action of the stress of the situation that happened. I couldn't process it mentally, emotionally, or physically, which caused my body to have this stress for me to act a certain way, which caused me to lead me to the path to addiction. And the thing is that as I'm in recovery and cleaning the wreckage of my past, because the program teaches us to clean the wreckage of our past, that means I have to look at the stress that caused the trauma to my mind and my body. So I had to look at the situation that caused me stress and caused my body to have trauma. But now I'm looking at it older, uh, more wiser, and I'm going back to that person that handled the stress in the beginning. And I didn't handle it. What I did was I medicated myself so I wouldn't feel the stress nor the pain. But my body carried that situation with me, which I call living rent free in my head and in my body. And in order for me to get better, to live life on life's terms, I must address the stress that created the trauma in my body and in my mind. So I had to go back and face and deal with situations that hurt me deeply, emotionally and mentally and physically. I had to go back and say, it's okay, Robert, that you've experienced this, that you're going to be okay. So what I'm saying is that if we do not address the stress of the past and how the trauma affects our body, we will not heal. And what happens is I carried that pain and it lived rent free in my head for 40 years, which caused me to relive that pain over and over and over again. And my justification on the stress made me punish myself on the same token of trying to help myself. So, how did I get to a place where my past didn't continually cause my body to relive the trauma of the past? Because what happens is if I don't address this problem, then situations that look like what had happened in the past, my body would automatically react. My mental and my body will react in the same manner that the stress happened when I was young. It caused me to act and feel a certain way. that meant that I was not getting well. By me stuffing it, I'm not getting well. What I have to do is to reconnect with that side of me that handled that stress from the beginning. And how I can do that is saying, Robert, it's okay. You did the best that you could with the information that you had on handling your situation. So it's okay. You don't have to carry that pain anymore. It's okay. And what I'm doing is actually making myself reprocess the stress so I do not have that trauma mentally and physically anymore. And my life got better. It wasn't an easy task. It was a very difficult one because I am dealing with the root that caused my addiction. In order to recover from active addiction, we must deal with the root of the situation that caused us to pick up in the first place. There's no way that you are going to get well unless you do the uncomfortable thing of facing the problem that haunted you all your life. I learned that there's methods to cause the body to not react to that trauma. Some people medicate themselves by yoga. Some people help themselves through exercise. These are things that balance out the trauma that we've experienced in our past. Some people journal, which is a great thing. Journal, writing down what you're feeling and how you feel gives you insight of looking at yourself, of how you feel, and then now you can process this information and come up with sound decisions to overcome what you've ever written. You get to look at how you feel, and you can get a better perspective of what you need to do for yourself to make the situation better. The trauma that we experience is the reaction to stress that happens to us, our bodies and our minds. And we want to protect our body and our minds from the stress of every day. It could be losing your job. It could be a divorce. It could be a person cheating in a relationship. It could be your children doing the most, getting arrested. It could be so many things. But you have to find ways and means to deal with the stress so it does not become a trauma to your body and to your mind. Yeah, that's why I say keeping the focus on myself and working a program of recovery for myself is a full-time job for Robert to stay clean and sober and for Robert to be a better person. And to understand why I acted the way I did on the stress that happened to me and how it affected me and what it did to me. By understanding myself more, I'm able to protect myself from making bad decisions or feeling a certain way. I have a sound, solid connection with myself today. Why? Because I am working on Robert to make Robert better. I'm learning to deal and accept the things that has happened to me that hurt me deeply and use that as learning experience so these things will not happen to me in the present or affect my future. It's just like I had to come to grips with not living with a father, where everybody around me had a father. Where they had a baseline, someone to stand up for the family, someone to show their son how to be a parent, a person to love a woman the right way, learn how to be a productive person to take care of a family. I didn't have that type of relationship because I only seen my father a few times. And it was when I was young. So the way he looks is like a blank screen. But people around me had their father. So I felt the stress of not having a father and having that insecurity caused me to have trauma with my mind and my body because he wasn't there. But the interesting thing is that my uncle, Uncle Jack, stepped in and showed me some things that I needed to learn. It wasn't his job, but he was a true, dedicated uncle to me. I've learned so much in recovery for me to live my best life. I learned so much in recovery not to deal with the things of the past, but to find a way to understand the past and to learn from the past and to grow from the past. Recovery is a walk of life, is a way of life that will lead you down a path that will make you better as a human being, as a person, and it will give you a life far beyond your dreams. But you have to work on yourself because Robert, stress caused him to have trauma, which caused him to pick up and medicate himself. Do you understand why you got high in the first place? Do you understand how the drugs was your scapegoat from not dealing with the stress that happened to you? Isn't your stress seem easier to blame and pass the hurt instead of understanding why and changing your behavior so it's the betterment for yourself? Are you punishing someone for the past that you live your trauma over and over again when you can just have a conversation and you two can work through it and move forward? Recovery is changing your behavior, changing your outlook on life, changing your associations. See, I don't associate with people that smoke cocaine and get lit up because that's what I love. I love to get high. I loved cocaine, but cocaine has destroyed my life. I understand that. I understand I like the feeling. But when I put that stuff into my system, I have no control. All I want is more. And I have no respect of persons when I put that into my body. And that I learned by addressing the stress that happened in my past that caused the trauma to my mind and my body. So I learned that in order for Robert to get better, to live life on life's terms, to feel good about myself, to have a life far beyond my dreams, I must and always keep the focus on myself to make myself better so I can receive the blessings of recovery. Remember, you only get better determines how much you put into your recovery. How important are you to yourself? And I learned and I know as a fact by living in recovery that the better I get, the more I can help others by my walk and by my deeds. And I feel good on the inside, which relieves that trauma from me, which puts a smile on my face. But if I do not work on the stress from the past, that trauma will always live in me, which will always cause me emotional and mental issues. So the point I'm trying to drive home is that stress causes the body to have trauma. And there's things that you can do to change that. As you meditate, you can do yoga, you can journal, you can exercise, but most importantly, understand yourself, why you acted the way you acted when the stress happened. Forgive yourself and forgive what you've done to others. And reconnect with those that you carried that trauma in your mind and in your body And every time you go over it in your head, it just hurts on the inside, mentally and emotionally. You have to let it go. Because these are the things that destroys us. These are the things that shorten our lives. It's stress. We have to let it go. But in order to let it go, we have to identify the problem, forgive ourselves, and forgive others, and start new. Reconnect. The past is the past. You cannot write the past. You can't change the past. The past is already written. But what you can do is build a sound, solid relationship in the present and for the future. It's entirely up to you. I choose to deal with the stresses of the past so I don't live the trauma every day. I hope I said some things that allows you to live your best life in recovery. I pray and I hope that you do not let the stress of the past become the trauma today. This is Robert Goodman for Positive Strokes, wishing you a great Monday. And remember, you've done the work. You've came this far. You've changed your behavior. You made new friends. Those friends that was helping destroying your life, you change your behavior. You allow them to be who they are and you let them go. You built new friends, new relationships. So be proud of what you've done in recovery. But it's not done yet because you want to die clean and sober. That's when you beat addiction, when you die clean and sober. And how you can do that is always, always work on yourself. You have a great day.